Awesome. So with that, I'll just introduce myself again. Hi, everybody. My name is Jack Hill. I'm the Region 1 Regional Affairs Director, and welcome to tonight's non-credit courses forum, excuse me. Super happy to be here with you all tonight, and I'm going to be presenting the intro part of this presentation. So just before we start, what is the SSCCC? So the Student Center for California Community College is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are student-led, and we represent the over 2.1 million students at our California community colleges. Also, we are recognized by the Chancellor's Office as the official representative body of that student population. So we really take pride in our work in representing that large segment of students and their interest at the legislature and other avenues as well. And it's through the SSCCC that students have a formal and effective opportunity to participate in the formation of state policies that may have a significant impact on students. To accomplish this, we structure ourselves in the following manner. So first pillar of the SSCCC, that is the system participatory governance. So as an organization, we provide recommendations on policy decisions that impact students. We do this through many different avenues, primarily for advocating in the legislature, but in other areas as well. We also appoint students to over 25 participatory governance groups, which we will provide information with for if anybody is interested, seeing that we do have many vacancies on those groups as well. But it's through these participatory governance groups that the student voice is able to be heard in statewide policy discussions. Also, the second pillar of the SSCCC, legislative and policy advocacy. So as an organization, we pursue many different pieces of legislation in the legislature that pertain to students. So we introduce, sponsor, and advocate for those measures. And we also act as the voice of the students at the Capitol, like I mentioned previously. We are recognized by the Chancellor's Office as the official representative body of the 2.1 million students within the CCC system. So we vigorously pursue different measures that are being sponsored in the Capitol that pertain to students. Also, the third pillar, one that I interact with the most, the regional support and development. Through regional support and development, we provide resources, training, and support to SBAs and regions. This is primarily through the Regional Delegate Assembly, where all the delegates of the different colleges within a region come and discuss things that are going on in their campuses and statewide issues as well pertaining to California community college students. And it's through these discussions at these delegate assemblies that students are empowered through policy development, issue discussion, and other venues. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Angelica to moderate the non-credit student courses forum. Angie, when you're ready.
All right, thank you for that, Jack. Hi, everyone. My name is Angelica Campos. I'm a student at City College of San Francisco, as well as the Vice President of the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. In just a few moments, we're going to hear from, a wonderful panel of faculty and students to talk about non-credit experiences and the impact of non-credit enrollment and course offerings during the pandemic. So if you could go to the next slide, that'd be great, Jack. First up, everyone here, I'll give you all a chance to introduce yourself. But today on our panel, we have Ronald Gonzalez, a student at City College of San Francisco. We have Ines Machado from North Orange Community College District. Svetlana Soske, I'm sorry if I misstated your name, but they're also a student from North Orange Community College District. Last but not least, we have Jan Young, a member of the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges. But Ron, I'm going to give it to you to introduce yourself first.
Thank you so much, Angelica Campos. Such a pleasure to be here with everyone. And again, my name is Ron Gonzalez, a student at City College in San Francisco. Recently transitioned from non-credit courses to credit courses, and on track to earn an associate's degree very, very, very soon. It's a pleasure being here, and looking forward to discussing more in regards to my experience as a non-credit student and transitioning into credit students. And as I comment, if it's all right to say the same message in Spanish, or would you like me to come back? Buenas tardes a todos, es un placer estar aquí en este foro. Mi nombre es Ronald González y recientemente he hecho la transición de estudiantes de non-credit a tomar clases de crédito y próximamente estaré recibiendo mi licenciatura de el diploma de 2 años, una carrera de 2 años y estoy contento y de estar acá y espero poder responder a sus preguntas lo mejor posible. Y bienvenidos a todos.
All right, Ines, your turn.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Inés Machado. I study in NOC, North Orange Community College. I started the last year in spring in a non-credit program. First the BCA, and now I started the management program. So my goal is to get into college, hopefully soon. And I'm glad to be part of this panel. And in NOC, I started to be in the student leadership opportunity volunteering. So any question, I'm more than glad to be here and also not only answering, but also learning. So thank you so much. It's my first time in a panel like this here in California. It's very exciting for me.
All right, Svetlana, are you on the line?
Yes.
All right.
I cannot see myself. I'm talking, but you want me to speak?
Yeah, if you could just
Yeah.
briefly introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Okay. My name is Svetlana Solsky, and I represent in North Orange Continuing Education. It happened to I started taking all these classes during this my professional downtime during pandemic. It's professional development. So I took CTA classes for management program and already received the certificate. And I received 2 certificates in ESL classes. So I'm very interested about the information that Ms. Jen Jans said right now about the internship, because I'm in a very active job search currently. I'm engineering professional and I took management course to add to my professional development. So I will be interested to explore this opportunity. And I'm a student leader, and I'm always happy to share my experience as a professional and a student and learn from others.
And we're excited to learn from you. Jan, you can go for it.
Oh, well, I'm Jan Young, and I've been teaching non-credit for over 20 years now. And I also serve in the Academic Senate, been on several committees on the statewide level in curriculum in particular, and also am president there, believe it or not, there is an organization for faculty and administrators throughout the state and for non-credit, and I'm president of that organization this year.
All right, thank you for that. So this is a great segue into our very first set of questions. Jan, so your first question is, briefly describe non-credit courses and the type of non-credit courses that are available to students.
Okay, well, non-credit courses, believe it or not, are defined through legislation. So it's not just, you can just pick any subject and say, I'm gonna offer a non-credit course. But the 3 that are really the most popular throughout the state are basic skills, ESL, and short-term vocation, which would include what, you know, all the management, the business courses, what have you. Anything that would be short-term that you could have within a year. And so, but the mindset of non-credit is really different than credit. Credit is what information, when the faculty is putting together the curriculum, what information can I convey in 16 to 18 weeks? But non-credit has a very different objective. We don't care about the time it takes. What we care about is that you attain the skills. And that's very much like this kind of new model curriculum you might be hearing about, competency-based education, which is you learn the competencies. So it doesn't matter. Some people, it might take them 5 weeks. Other people, it might take a year, depending on your past experiences. So I think that given that the objective is for you to attain various skills, and there's no kind of well, there is assessment, but there isn't kind of that punitive feel of being tested, like, you got to pass this grade or what have you. It's non-credit is to help you prepare in so many different ways. So we're more ally than professor and student would be if you're getting and you're paying for the units. Again, it's not the end all. Some people take a non-credit certificate and go and get a job. And others transition, like Ron is going on to the credit world. So you have a choice. For a lot of people, they stop, what we call stop out. And we have a lot of people, I teach at Glendale College in the Los Angeles area, where they would take an accounting certificate. We have a lot of immigrants in our community, and they have to support a family. So they can't wait 4 years to get an associate's degree in accounting. They need a job now. So they might stop out and take something like an account clerk payable position. It doesn't pay as much as an accountant, but it brings money into the family. And then down the line, they're going to use that experience and then go back and get their 4-year degree. And I think, Svetlana, you were going to go back and get your degree. So, whatever, you're going to get your job and get your work experience. But those are the opportunities that you have in non-credit. And for basic skills, I'm just going to say, and I don't know how much the Student Senate group has talked about AB 705, which eliminates remedial courses. Everybody now starts in transfer level math and transfer English. That could be daunting for somebody who's been out of school for, say, 20 years. I got to take math and it's got to be transfer level. So non-credit can be a nice segue into that, where you can brush up on some of your skills. And depending if you have a lot of holes, you might spend more weeks there. But if you don't, maybe less. And the same for ESL. Some people, come with some literacy in English, some don't, but it doesn't matter. They can not burn up all their financial aid by going to non-credit and learning English, and then use their financial aid to get the credit subjects. So yeah, that's all I got on that one.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jen. I think you bring up a really, really good point about the differences between non-credit and credit. Like for me, that's actually eye-opening, because I never really thought about non-credit that way, even though I'm pretty aware of like what the different types of non-credit courses there. I didn't think of that mindset. So thank you for that. Moving on to the next question. In your observation, what changes in enrollment and course offerings have occurred due to the pandemic?
Well, for a lot of reasons, non-credit was slow to get in on the distance ed game. And a lot of it just, is the way that the state counts, does accounting for their students. And it's this messy formula for non-credit. So non-credit was caught off guard, because not only did our students not take distance ed courses, our faculty didn't know how to teach distance ed courses. And so it was a learning curve for both, to get everyone acclimated to this new learning environment. Also, a lot of our students couldn't afford to have a computer or some sort of device to be able to learn. So we had to mobilize, and a lot of colleges did mobilize, the loaning of laptops out, the hotspots, things that a lot of students took for granted. But our students didn't have the funds to be able to do that. So we had to get very inventive and mobilized quickly so that we could get that connectivity between non-credit students, get them up on a device, and then they had to be trained on how to use it. And I must say faculty too, but also, how to use Canvas. Ugh, something else I've got to learn. I've got to learn English, and now I have to learn this software on top of it. So, we tried to have workshops led by different language, in different languages, so that you could hear instructions on how to do this, at least in your native language, and to overcome some of these hurdles, because I think it was profound. We lost across the state about 40% of our non-credit students, which is profound. They've coming back, I must say, but reminds me, I was in Lowe's. I was ordering some flooring, and this guy who was helping me, he was, I don't know, about 19 or 20. And we started talking. He said, "What do you do?" I said, "Oh, I teach at community college." And he said, "Oh yeah, I tried to do a math class online, but I couldn't get it online. I didn't understand it. So I dropped out. I dropped the course, and I just decided I'm gonna work full time at Lowe's until they start doing more in-person classes, and maybe I'll go back then." And I think that was a lot of students' attitudes. Like, it was really hard for them. It was very frustrating. So they timed out for a while from their education. And it's our job now to try to get them back into the fold, so to speak.
I think you're also highlighting a very big barrier that we can probably talk about it in a little bit later on, but a big barrier that non-credit students face, because I know some schools, they still hold enrollment to online, so you not online, in person or on paper. So if you're taking non-credit courses, you have to enroll via paper. But then there was, I know many campuses were closed, so maybe they weren't able to go to their admissions office or wherever.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the last question. What are challenges students face in non-credit courses? What resources are available or are lacking for non-credit students? And finally, what challenges were different from before COVID to the current time now?
Well, the one challenge that I think still remains is finding non-credit courses. There's not a lot of information out there except word of mouth. And if you ask your other panelists how they heard about it, I bet it was probably through their friends. There's not a whole lot of marketing done. And like, where do I go to find out about it? It's like, I say our slogan in non-credit is the best kept secret in Glendale. People just don't know that we're there. I think in the past, it has been for how do I transition to credit classes, but with a guided pathway effort, I think there's a lot more emphasis on getting students understanding what the pathway is and what they have to take and what they don't have to take. I've always said that the secret sauce in non-credit is our integration with student services, that we really see each other as partners to help the student and work together towards that. So that you do know your counselor in non-credit, or if you don't, then the instructor will make sure you know about her or him. And I think that's really important because it takes a village, not just one instructor. And I think that's a distinct advantage. We're all here to support you, the student, to move forward. And I think that really is the beauty of that. I think we're blessed. I know in one thing that we have really rose to the occasion at Glendale, we have our own mental health counselor now, particularly after COVID. I gotta believe I could use some help. I can imagine most people could. We have our own food pantry for our we're actually on a different location, our campus. So we have a food pantry just for our non-credit students, and as well as non-credit counselors. So we're very blessed in that way. Yeah, we're still loaning out computers. And I think you said that's one of the biggest barriers is just, how do we get the computers out, the software out that they need, the hotspots, and hopefully we'll continue getting funding, federal funds, so that we can continue that practice.
Thank you for that, Jan. Something that I just thought of right now when you were mentioning guided pathways regarding non-credit courses and students is, I know we're doing this big push for credit courses and guided pathways and making it easier for credit students to get through community college. I know programs like Bakersfield, they have something called like the program mapper. I think it's
Right.
useful, like we start to define paths for non-credit, because I think a lot of non-credit students, and I know my peers here can probably talk about it better than I can, but many of them are interested in making that transition, that jump from non-credit to credit, or other degree paths, or other, pro opportunities that our community college system offers.
Yeah, interesting you should say that, because many years ago, maybe about 10 years ago, I did focus groups with our students, and I said, kind of like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I mean, what is your aspiration in terms of employment? And almost everyone, well, not everyone, but a large percentage said nurse. I want to be a nurse. And while that is a great goal, it's really a long pathway to become a nurse. And so what we did was we started a course called Pathways to Health Careers in non-credit, so that non-credit students could learn about different occupations. Hey, did you know you could be an acute care giver and make X number of dollars? I mean, just understanding what's possible out there. And I don't know, I mean, I'm American born and all that good stuff, but I don't know all of those avenues. So why would someone coming from another country have any exposure to the opportunities out there? So I'm hoping that more colleges get on board on doing things like that to educate students about opportunities they never have thought about.
All right, thank you again, Jan. And now, Ron, this one's directed for you. What obstacles did you face as an English as a second language student? Did you encounter any language barriers in exploring resources in your native language?
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much everywhere. Soon after, a little bit of background, soon after having to drop off from high school due to financial hardships, still learning English, finding information in Spanish was a challenge, because everything was in English. And the challenge that I experienced with English was comprehending the actual message. It's a simple application, but guess what? It wasn't that simple. If English is not my first language, I had a difficult time. Basic questions. It came up to the lack of information, the lack of direction, to the point that living in San Francisco, I had to enroll in this adult education school in San Pablo. So I had to commute every day to San Pablo, knowing that City College of San Francisco was in my city. I lived in San Francisco, City College being there, the information was just not there. It's just the comprehension and the direction of the information that's only in English at times was a challenge with that transitions and being able to navigate the system, which is complicated. Not a lot of people also spoke multiple languages. And a lot of times I felt embarrassed and shy that I couldn't communicate properly and communicate what I was, the challenges that I was facing. I just didn't know how to communicate or even ask the question properly. And like Jan mentioned, it takes a village. So me and my other buddies will help each other with translating from Spanish to English and grammatically speaking properly and translating so much in our minds and then verbally saying them in the language that the other person spoke. That was a challenge. One example of the challenges that I went through.
All right, thank you for that, Ron. Moving on to our next question. This one's open for everyone. First up, which non-credit courses did you take? Why did you choose to enroll in non-credit? I'm gonna ask Svetlana to go first this time.
Yeah, I actually did several courses. I was taking class for parenting classes that were very interesting in North Orange Continuing Education. They have a great parenting department that even my kids already grown up adults. And what I learned from these classes is the communication skills. It's a very great opportunity to learn communication skills. Then next course I took is management. So I have an engineering degree from another country, and I worked in the positions here in the United States, but I never had a chance to work actually at engineering position, but I was doing all the work in engineering assistant. Like Jen, you said, you need to make money, bring the money to the family. And then I always was taking technical classes at Cypress College. That it's just a sister. I consider sister to NOCE. And when I had an opportunity, I did take some classes when I just came to United States, ESL classes. But just last year, I had opportunity and time, so I did take more grammar classes in ESL department, and I've still taken some class right now. I already received a couple of certificates in ESL, but I think for a non-English speaking person to learn English is probably ongoing time, because I want to be as good as a native speaker. So constantly, if I have opportunity, I'm learning English. And the classes at CTE classes, they were amazing. Some of them was pretty challenging, and it was not. It's probably, I think most of the people that was taking these classes, it was not native English speakers. Majority of them, but it was challenging professionally. It was challenging sometimes is because of language too, especially at the management classes.
All right, thank you, Ines or Ron. Feel free to jump in whenever y'all are ready.
Okay, I'm ready. So do you have any question, or do you want me to talk about my experience?
Do you want me to restate the question?
Yes.
Because we're just asking pretty much about what non-credit courses did you, which non-credit courses did you take or are you taking, and why did you enroll?
Okay, first of all, I say that I have some experience in my career professional, but when I get here, I put my mind in a state that I have to learn from zero. So I try to for me, the most important to know about how the system works is through education.
Yeah.
So for me, getting to NOC, it was amazing in the way that I found the counselors. So they suggest me what is the best, what is the right path to take. So I started with ESL classes, and then I wanted to know more about how I can get into the college system. So they started for personal care, caregiver. So I started into that program. And something that I find completely amazing is the quality of the education, even for non-credit classes, that I can compare with my university classes in my country. So I think this is very encouraging for the people that when they get into these classes and they can feel challenged, because for the level, especially in the medium and advanced level, it's something that open your mind and you think, okay, if I pass this, I can get into college. So this is something that I find amazing for people that despite of the education, they come from their countries, they feel challenged here. And even despite of the legal status, they think, okay, I can go more. I can get more. And I find something that, wow, is incredible. And you want to learn more, because it's like open your mind. Okay, I have a career, a professional career, but this is opening. And that is, I find many people that share this opportunity, and they start to study. Even they work, they open the time to study. So this is something that I find very, very interesting. And also that the information to get into the classes is very easy in the internet. If you take the time and you really are focused what do you want to get, is something that really, really helps. And the counselors, and the most important, being focused and want to be part of the system. I mean, okay, I have my education, I have my language, but I have to change change my mind. No, it's like and education is something that has really helped me a lot, and I'm very, very thankful for the opportunity, for everything, and the support to the students despite the status undocumented people, even that have been here for many years and are retired people, is great how they feel. No, and I think this is for everybody is great. And we feel that, okay, I can be part of the system and continue, moving forward.
You all have it within yourselves. But I think one thing that non-credit provides is the ability for you to recognize, to give you the confidence to go on and use what you have, your brains and whatnot. And it's like getting your feet wet. You go, I can do this. And so if we can just cross that barrier of you starting to believe in yourself and you're capable of doing it, then a non-credit course has done its job and then some.
Yeah, even I'm thinking another field, different of the field of my career. So I think this is great. So any question, or do you want?
Ron, let's pop over there, Ron.
Yeah, for question number one, in regards to what courses I enrolled in, like I mentioned earlier, I dropped out of high school, and it was one of the biggest mistakes but I've made. But then again, most of it has kind of forced to go to work and provide for the family. So when I tried to enroll back with the adult education, I enrolled in high school courses to earn a high school diploma, and I wanted to do that because I was rejected many times during interviews, or not even get an interview, just because I didn't have a high school diploma. And I was able to get a bit of experience in retail, but that wasn't enough. So years later, I decided to enroll at City College. I took some of the classes, some credit courses, but the majority of them were non-credit, because I wanted to get a high school diploma and work on the transition to earning a degree. But the main focus was to, at a minimum, have a high school diploma. It was very embarrassing not to have this degree, and it's not, many of the times it's not our own faults. There's circumstances that we go through that forces us to make difficult decisions, where we have to choose between our livelihoods or our education. And during that time, I had to go to work and provide for the family. And again, a lot of it had to do with the information being available, the programs being available for students, and even the languages, you know. So I'll ask for permission again if I can translate all this in Spanish, because I know we have some attendees that their English is a second language, and I'm sure that they would like to learn as much as possible about our experiences and how we are doing during the transition. So if it's okay, I would speak a bit in Spanish. Thank you. Gracias. No, el comentario es de una de las preguntas que se hicieron al panel. ¿Cuáles fueron los cursos? ¿Cuáles fueron las dificultades que uno experimenta siendo una persona que el inglés no es su primer idioma? ¿Y cuáles fueron los primeros cursos que uno se registró para tomar clases en el colegio de non-credit o de crédito? Y mi comentario fue que al principio, después de haber dejado de estudiar en la secundaria, tuve que trabajar porque necesitamos ganar dinero para pagar el alquiler, comprar la comida, pagar cosas que eran necesarias para nosotros en la familia. Y dejé de estudiar por esas necesidades económicas. Y fue difícil encontrar programas que ayudaran a adultos a terminar su secundaria. Entonces, viviendo en San Francisco, encontré un programa en San Pablo, y cada día, de lunes a viernes, yo hacía ese viaje de San Francisco a San Pablo para tomar clases de high school. Y eso fue triste y difícil porque por falta de conocimiento yo desperdiciaba 3 horas de mi día viajando a San Pablo y de vuelta, y no sabiendo que en San Francisco habían programas donde yo podía terminar mi high school diploma, la carrera, recibir el diploma de high school. Hasta después, muchos años después, conocí otras personas que me introdujeron al programa y empecé a tomar clases de non-credit en City College, y así empezó esa journey, esa jornada para terminar el high school diploma. Pero lo que comentaba fue que es muy difícil encontrar esta información cuando esta información no está en nuestro idioma, no está disponible para nosotros. Son como grandes secretos donde uno tiene que indagar bastante para informarse de qué programas están disponibles para nosotros que inglés no es nuestro primer idioma. Y comentaba que después que me registré en el colegio de City College, tomé clases de non-credit para terminar la high school, y en el 2019 al 2020 terminé el programa, recibí mi high school diploma, y al siguiente semestre me enrolé y registré en clases de crédito para continuar la carrera, continuar los estudios y sacar una carrera de 2 años. Pero esas dificultades de que la información no está en nuestros idiomas, eso ha sido lo más difícil para mí, y encontrar esa información, traducirla al español, entender mejor el inglés. Y como yo, hay bastantes otras personas que han querido mejorar, han querido seguir sus carreras, su educación, pero no han podido porque la información no está disponible para ellos. Lo voy a dejar ahí porque solo es una de las preguntas. Yo creo que hay 2 preguntas más, pero eso era lo que quería traducir al español. Thank you, Jen, Ines, Angelica.
You know, Ron, your story reminds me, I had a student who also had a family, had to drop out of high school. He was in retail because that's all he could get. And he kept on not getting promotions because he didn't have a high school diploma. So he came to our program, our high school GED program, and got his GED. And he said, you know, I'm thinking about going on to credit, or, you know, and I said, go for it. You've got it. He goes, you think so? I go, yeah, no, really, you do. And so he went. I kind of lost touch with him. And then we were at a ceremony right before graduation, and they were announcing people with the highest grade point average. And it turned out this guy, well, he didn't graduate in 2 years. It took him a little longer because he still worked. But he had the highest GPA of any student from 2 to 4 years. And I was just busting my buttons. I thought this was so cool. And then on top of it, I saw him afterwards, and he fell in love with anthropology. Like, he never knew about anthropology. He took that course as part of his general requirements, and he loved it. And he ended up getting a scholarship to UCLA to study anthropology. I've never been prouder of anyone who, started off embarrassed by, thinking everybody thought he was stupid and all this stuff, but that's just what life dealt him. And just incredible that he made such great lemonade out of some lemons. So anyway.
All right, thank you for that. We're gonna quickly move on to our second question. So for all of the panelists, Svetlana, Ines, Ron, while taking non-credit courses, what resources and support did you receive? And if there are any services and support that you didn't receive, what did you wish you had?
Well, the resources that I have as a non-credit student, I study completely online. So I can say that the resources that I have are everything on the system has been very helpful. And even I have the opportunity to have one-on-one with my teacher, and even if for the next step with the counselor in college. So I think has been very helpful in the term that I'm open to be there and to look for. I think nothing is coming to you. You have to look for, you have to seek. And when you seek, you find. So I think in the case in NOC, I have found all the resources. Even if I want to go to the campus, it's available. No? The lab and the counselor, and so for that has been very, very good for me. No, and even they can provide you. No, they can provide computers. They can provide. They can help the students in case of they need it. So I think if a person is able to study, they can find. But also you have sometimes it's overcome yourself, and sometimes the situations are challenging. But you can do it. I think it's something that I can say about my experience, about the resources in the college and for as a non-credit student.
All right, Svetlana.
Yes, I can share the similar feeling about North Orange County education because I took all the classes online when I started doing all these certificate programs, and all the support I received with anything that necessary. It was a lot of support from the teachers because they would love to share everything that they learned from this online new stuff, and they would take time after the class to help out every student that had any struggles. Also, I learned that, of course, I would recommend every student to take their own leadership to ask for information, because it's a lot of resources and you need to ask for it. Everything that you need, it will be supported and helped out. I started all the online classes. It was, I think, like second semester during the pandemic, and teachers already had some knowledge, and like they called a lot of classes like a pandemic class in ASL, but they were so happy that they already learned something during the first semester that it was probably harder, and they were very happy to share all this knowledge and with how to use the Canvas and how to do a lot of stuff online. And it was great. It was a great opportunity to learn. And yeah, I would say how Ms. Yan, Jen Yan said that, yes, I think it gave me confidence when I completed these courses, because I do have bachelor degree from another country, and I do have already experienced working for more than 20 years in the United States, but due pandemic time, my engineering department was closed. And right now I'm in a job search stage. But yeah, when there's downtime, you have a hard time to remain very confident about yourself. And these classes, I would say, yes, it's a great help for everybody, and especially when you do have some experience and you do have something, but to remain in this confidence stage, I think it's a great help.
Yeah.
I think something that a lot of people discount is that there are students in non-credit that already come with, you know, a professional background, degrees from their own country, and it's sometimes like it feels like they're not dumb. No student in non-credit is dumb. They all have that background. You know, they just need that confidence coming to a new country, learning a language, that support, and then also like that sense of community. Also, I think with those classes, I don't know if Ron, you want to, if you have a similar experience or not.
Yeah.
From my experience, from my experience in CTE classes, when we had some projects that we were in the groups like 5-6 people, I learned that most of the people did have the bachelor's degree and some work experience. So yeah.
All right, Ron.
Yeah, the resources at City College were student-led resources, and one of them being the Associated Student Council and the executive team as well. The resources brought by the students was amazing. It was like a family looking out for each other. So I think that was one of the main point of resources. And from there, I was able to meet other professors and counselors and other programs from the college. But it started with the Associated Student Council, particularly the one from Mission campus is very active. And that's where we have most of our Latinos congregated. So all our meetings were in Spanish, and we were able to get that information to the students, and I was able to learn so much from everyone there. Another point, resource was a program called Puente, and particularly with Ms. Adriana Rivera and Ms. Amy Miles. These two ladies are amazing, and I tell Ms. Miles, she's the English teacher, that with her, I learned a whole lifetime of English. So much that I never learned in elementary school, middle school, or high school. I learned it in 2 semesters with her. And I tell her, you know, I tell her that she's amazing, because without her, and this goes to all professors and all mentors, without Ms. Miles visualizing my face or me as a student, she went to school for me. She prepared herself to educate me, to allow me to learn and comprehend and reach my potential. And the same with Ms. Adriana Rivera. She's our counselor, and so much that I did not know a path or education plan. I had no idea a plan. I was, when the catalogs were still printed, I used to highlight what I thought would be the classes needed for a degree. I had no idea that there's requirements. So, there was a lot of time that I wasted taking classes that I did not need until I met Ms. Adriana Rivera and Ms. Miles through Puente. That was a resource, and still is a resource that I I value very much. I hold dear to my heart, and I'm in touch with both professors and all the other students that are in the program. We still support each other. And the third point is the health center at City College in San Francisco. A lot of times we don't discuss our mental health. We don't discuss what goes on internally. And the health center has been tremendous in providing support, especially Noah Listro. He's been instrumental in providing that support and that guidance, especially when there's so much pain and suffering mentally. A lot of times adults don't know that there's a condition that they have been living with, and learning about these conditions that they were not aware. The health center has been very helpful in providing support in that way, providing a safe space where we can talk about what we're experiencing, especially through the pandemic, and especially through financial hardships, especially when dreams are crushed, when classes are cut. The reduction of classes hinder our progress, academic progress. So the health center has been very supportive and helpful for me while taking non-credit courses. And I know I'll do this real quick. I would like to translate that in Spanish. I know that there's some attendees there. Compañero, la pregunta número 2 es ¿qué tipo de recursos hemos recibido al estar registrado en clases de non-credit? Y mi comentario ha sido que la Asociación de Estudiantes ha sido el primordial soporte para mi progreso académico, personal y mentalmente al mismo tiempo. Esos programas son liderados por estudiantes inmigrantes, estudiantes que son ESL, estudiantes que no han terminado la high school y que están trabajando para lograr esas metas. Todos esos estudiantes de la asociación de estudiantes son líderes que me han apoyado, que me han animado, me han guiado en un camino correcto, y al mismo tiempo he participado en la asociación de estudiantes para ayudar a otros estudiantes a seguir adelante académicamente y saber dónde encontrar la información y la ayuda necesaria para avanzar. Otro punto que mencioné fue que el programa Puente ha sido esencial en mi progreso como en total, como persona, académicamente y profesionalmente. En especial, agradecimiento a la señorita Adriana Rivera y Ms. Amy Mouse. Son dos personas súper especial en mi vida. Ms. Rivera, la consejera, me ha ayudado a eliminar pérdida de tiempo, porque antes no sabía lo que era un plan educativo. Tuve ingresado en clases que no eran necesarias para el high school, que no eran necesarias para la carrera de 2 años, y con el plan educativo que Adrián Rivera pudo colaborar conmigo y pusimos algo juntos, estoy a tiempo para terminar esa carrera de 2 años. Y con la profesora Amy Mouse, ella es súper especial para mí. Yo le digo a ella que con ella en los 2 semestres que he estado tomando clase he aprendido toda una vida de inglés, donde cuando yo estaba en el colegio de high school, middle school o elementary school, esa información no estaba disponible. Como ella enseña, no me enseñaban cuando estaba pequeño. Y es súper especial, le agradezco. Y por último, sé que cuando ellas se prepararon académicamente, ellos, aunque no sabían que iban a ser mis profesoras, se prepararon para asegurarse de que yo tuviera una educación adecuada, y que ellas puedan modificar su manera de enseñar de una manera donde yo podía entender y aprender. Y por último, el centro de salud que tenemos en City College es lindísimo. Tiene bastantes recursos, especialmente un líder como Noah Lindstrom en el departamento de Health Center. Ahí hay bastantes recursos donde hay ayuda como de terapia, donde muchas de las veces no, como adultos, no sabemos que vivimos con condiciones mentales, con condiciones específicas de cómo aprender. Y hay programas que pueden ayudarnos a todos a identificar esas condiciones mentales, condiciones emocionales, y asegurarnos que nuestra salud mental es necesaria y sumamente importante para seguir avanzando en nuestros planes. Thank you.
And you bring up another really good point about mental health. That's a basic need for all students, especially non-credit, among all of the population of community college students. I think I'm seeing more of an effort of colleges to be more intentional about identifying the services, the basic needs, and all of the programs that non-credit students need to actually succeed in community college. And that segues to our next question. Last one. Now that we've seen more of what your experiences have been and what resources have been good and what resources are lacking, and we still need to argue for and advocate for on our campuses. If you had a conversation with a legislator or a leader on your campus, what improvements would you ask for on behalf of students taking non-credit courses? And this time I'm gonna start with you, Ron.
All right, thank you, Angelica. I think, when I was in the participating with the Associated Student Council, our council was a non-credit predominantly, and in the state, I don't think we're recognized. I don't think we're recognized as ASC, and that hurts because we are equal students as credit students, and having a voice statewide is necessary because in a business mentality, we are that pipeline. We are your future credit students. We are your future professionals. We are already on the field working. We are essential to the economy. And recognition statewide of the Associated Student Councils, especially those that are in the non-credit courses and enrolled in non-courses. I believe there's a resolution that we have submitted, and I'm hoping and I'm confident that it will be voted in favor, and we will have non-credit students be acknowledged statewide, and their voice heard clearly in multiple languages as necessary. And second, I think two more things. Definitely an increase in accessibility, more marketing. Whoever is in the marketing team in colleges, this information needs to be broadcast, amplified every way possible in all these social media. A lot of these social media platforms are free. Word of mouth is free. And if the program is great, and if you have great examples with students and good experiences, these students will do the job for free with all their hearts. Just like we're here, we're doing this free will, and none of us are getting paid. And this is pure love to share the information to all the other students that perhaps don't have the information readily available for them. And lastly, more mental health programs. It's a basic need. We cannot ignore it. We cannot have minimum support on that. We need all the support possible and make it, because with the increase of mental health support, it allows us that have a condition to feel that it's okay, that it's normal, that even the use of the word normal it feels challenging, difficult at the time, that it's okay to feel what we feel and the challenges that we have in the learning process, right? And I would love to see more emphasis on mental health for all our students, and because we come from so many different paths, so many different countries, different backgrounds. It's very complex. So those 3 points. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. And actually, just to kind of talk on one of the things that you brought up is there was a resolution that I know you did offer for non-credit student enfranchisement and the SSCCC. Well, we approved that at our last year's General Assembly. I know our VPLA Prasad is on the line, and I know we're doing a lot of legislative advocacy to pass that initiative. I believe in our state assembly. Again, VPLA can correct me. So I'm hoping soon, we're not in the progress towards it, but we're actually finally at the day where we see non-credit students able to run for student government positions such as, senator, president, or even student trustee. But I'm gonna move over on to Ines, if you'd like to chime in. And then the question again for you is, if you had a conversation with a legislator or campus leader, what improvements would you ask for on behalf of students that are taking non-credit courses? Ines, are you still with us? All right, we can come back. Svetlana, would you like to go? We can't hear you.
Sorry, didn't unmute myself. I got very interested that it was brought up about the internship, because I was asking the question. So when I will get the certificate, and for me particularly, I'm very interested in the outcome of the job search. So what the certificate, how the certificate recognized. And I was told that the certificate recognized by the employers, but so far it's very hard to reach the right employer. So yeah, it's very hard to reach a right employer. And I'm very active on the LinkedIn, and I'm active in the other job search, and I still I honestly don't see this employers' interest so much. So some connection between the program and the employers would be probably very beneficial, because like 25 years ago, when I just came to the United States, I was in a MTI college. I don't know if it still exists, learning AutoCAD for design program, computer drafting. And at the time when I finished, it was 6 months full time. When I finished, they had the placement department, and they had connections with the employers who was just happy to get the students, graduating students. And I was one of the best graduating students, and I got the job probably 3 weeks before graduation. I got 3 interviews that was waiting for me, and it was 25 years ago. So it was awesome. So I was looking for something and asking questions. Is it something like this can be today, that I can have better connection to employers who are interested on the somebody graduating this program? But I didn't see much of that.
Well, yeah, just to get everyone up to speed on what I was talking about actually prior to us going live, is that in credit, you can take an internship course, and they allow you to take that for so many units, and you are placed in an organization where, you know, you learn the ropes of that organization, and the organization learns a lot about you. And usually it results in, if not a job offer from that particular company, at least a good, you can say that you've actually done what you've studied. And it's that link, that bridge to get you into employment. So it is now in the progress because it actually is written in law for the credit students, but it was never, non-credit students were not written into the law. So we have just rewritten Title V, which is our legislative bylaws or our code of the state. And it is going in its final draft to the Board of Governors, who approves it this summer. And what I advocated for was, this is equity. If you can do it for credit students, you need to be able to do this internship program for non-credit students. So Svetlana, I don't know if you can go back and take the PS internship program or not, but this is something that I really feel very strongly about. Been working on for about 5 years to get it accomplished. And I just wanted to add one other thing that, just so you know, on Ron getting the students involved, on the Academic Senate, you have to be a full-time member usually to be part of the Academic Senate. And in non-credit, they have very few full-timers. They're predominantly adjunct, and there's a whole reason why, but that's just the lay of the land. And so what happens is that at Academic Senate, statewide, it is the president of your college, and there's no non-credit representation at the Academic Senate. So they have formed a committee, and they used to have well, it is still the non-credit committee, but it was used to be staffed by people from credit. So I was like, how can you even know our issues? So our organization has a member from non-credit who sits on the non-credit committee, and the Academic Senate has been very open to our viewpoints, but it is something that we are going through as faculty as well as students. So just thought I'd add that bit.
Something I like to think of, well, something I think of when hearing that whole conversation, things that Ron brought up was, you know, the representation factor. Who else better to represent themselves in student leadership than non-credit students themselves? But I want to go over to Ines because we are running over a little bit. But Ines, if you could answer that question about if you could meet with a legislator or campus leader, what is one thing you would ask for them to change?
Okay, if I have the opportunity to, to talk to a campus leader, I will mention about the visibility of the undocumented students. The last year, I had the opportunity to meet many of my peers that were undocumented, and some of them have those fears of the visibility, you know, for all the things of the shame and all this. And the undocumented students are a big part of the community college. So it's like the resources that I can feel more confident to speak, to find resources, and also in the conditions, you know, in their lives can be how they can get into the system. But now, there is so many people that are undocumented. It would be amazing if they have the opportunity for education, because it's more beneficial for us, no, for our country, for our state. So the opportunity for undocumented students, and also how the resources, no. The other peer mentioned about the mental health, because there is a lot of pressure. So I think there is a huge spectrum that the college can open. Even in October, there is the week. But sometimes the people who attend is so few. And I think will be more open. I think for the people go, it's like, how can I say, is go out to the light and don't feel the fear, you know, to be exposed. So, because this is something that is permanently that they have. So I think that that would be amazing to open and to let to give, how can I say, the information on the internet that they can have. Even I was talking to a person that the last week, and he's undocumented, and he says he wants to study, but he didn't know. And I say, in the college, you have the opportunity, and he didn't have any idea. So I think it's more visibility, it's more that it's a condition, but it's not something that people can feel shame or fear, and they can have the opportunity to study, because it's better for all of us when the education. So this is something that I would like to talk about my experience with my peers.
All right, thank you, Ines. I'm gonna go to Ron before we wrap up here.
Thank you, Angelica. I know we're running out of time. But most importantly, if we don't have professors to teach, then we can't even ask for anything else, right? What I'm saying with that is that if professors are receiving pink slips and being asked to take early retirements because their jobs are being cut, you know, I just wanted to mention that yes, we need support with mental health, more programs to continue the transition, but the professors that are imparting non-credit courses are losing their jobs.
Yeah.
So I would like to add that comment. I hope that these pink slips can be turned back and our professors don't lose their jobs. We need them. We need them in our classrooms. We can't have these classrooms just with students and no professor. A lot of the classes are online. You know, I'm just sad about that portion where we're losing so many of our professors, and everyone gets negatively impacted. Our credit students and our non-credit students, and the actual livelihood of these professors. They're just like us. They have families, they have bills, they have their needs. And just really quick in Spanish, la pregunta número 3 es que si tenemos la oportunidad de hablar con alguien de la legislación o un líder del colegio, ¿qué le diríamos? Y mi comentario ha sido que incrementemos la información a los estudiantes, que el Departamento de Mercadeo haga un aumento de aumentar la información para todos los que están disponibles en social media, y por último, que no corten a los profesores, que no dejen a los profesores sin trabajo. Necesitamos nuestros profesores para poder seguir en las clases de non-credit, necesitamos nuestros profesores para seguir tomando clases de crédito y sacar nuestra carrera de 2 años. Y muchos de nosotros queremos transferirnos también a universidades de 4 años. Necesitamos nuestros profesores que tengan trabajos, que puedan seguir educándonos y preparándonos para esas carreras de 4 años, para tener nuestros bachelors y tal vez nuestro master's degree. So we need all our teachers and professors to keep their jobs, continue teaching us. We appreciate you, we need you. So I will say that to whoever's in charge. Thank you.
That would be the Chancellor of San Francisco, or City of San Francisco. Yeah. So unfortunately, the city college is getting hit particularly hard with layoffs right now.
This all opens the wormhole about the conversation on funding, better funding for our community colleges. But with that, I want to thank everyone, Jan Young, Ines, Ron, Svetlana, for speaking today on the panel. Regretfully, we were supposed to have an open forum, but we're a bit short on time. So again, I just want to thank you and all of the non-credit students that I do see on the line. You know who you are. So with that, I'm going to hand it over back to Jack to kind of wrap this up here. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Angie. So like she said, we're going to move on from our open forum since we ran out of time. But before we go, I want to just let you all know of some opportunities within the SSCCC for you to get involved. Our regional officer elections are coming up. Each regional delegate assembly is going to be holding their officer elections for the positions of regional affairs director, vice chair, legislative affairs director, treasurer, and comms officer during their May delegate assembly. So be sure to be on the lookout for the dates of those regions' DAs and, you know, run for a position. We're looking for people. Student engagement is super important, and having those positions filled is crucial. So really encourage all of you to run for a position. Also, participatory governance. You can serve on statewide committees on a variety of topics. And for some of these participatory governance statewide committees, compensation is provided. And it's not just minimal compensation. It's pretty nice compensation for what I might say. I'm pretty sure some of them are up to $25 an hour. So really, I would encourage all of you to also look into participatory governance, seeing that there are a lot of benefits other than compensation as well, such as providing your input on statewide policy issues, which is a huge honor and a huge need right now for, across the state. Or you could join a caucus within the SSCCC. So caucuses are designed to represent diverse student populations. We have many of them right now, i.e. the Spectrum Caucus, the Student Trustee Caucus, the Black Caucus, etc. We have a bunch of other ones coming up, including the Women's Caucus and the Formerly Incarcerated Students Caucus. So if you're interested in any of these, feel free, and I encourage you to email info@ssccc.org. Moving on, some upcoming events we're going to be having. So we're going to be continuing our student forum series like we have been tonight. The next topic we're going to be focusing on is undocumented students. That'll be March 24th. And also we'll be looking at diversity in STEM on March 29th. Encourage you guys to attend. Those are going to be really great discussions. And also our seminal event, General Assembly, that's going to be April 1st through the 3rd in Sacramento at the Holiday Inn. If you haven't registered yet, I encourage you to do so now. Unfortunately, the entire hotel is booked up, and correct me if I'm wrong in saying that, Dr. Adams, or anybody else, but nonetheless, that should not preclude you from coming. It's going to be a really great event. We're going to have workshops. We're going to have resolutions voting, executive officer voting for the next year's term. It's going to be a really great event. It's going to be a great turnout. We will have COVID policies in place that I won't go totally into right now. Just a couple brief ones though. Mandate or not, just masking will be required for everybody in the at the event, and also vaccinations will be required as well. We are allowing vaccination exemptions as well, but I won't go into everything right now. If you are interested, feel free to email info@ssccc.org as well. And finally, be sure to connect with us. We have multiple different social media platforms, all with very similar handles. Our Instagram, @SSCCC_official, our Twitter @SSCCC_official, and our Facebook Student Senate for California Community Colleges. But with that, that is all. And our website, ssccc.org. I'm sure the link will be dropped in the chat. But that is it, everybody. Thank you again for attending. A really great discussion. And I want to thank all of our panelists as well for just providing a lot of great input on this super salient issue. And again, thank you guys.